Hey everybody, this is Recovery Dude, and this is my second video. Figured just did the first one, might as well go for the second. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about my take on steps 1 through 4. Now, some of you may be working the NA program, I work the AA program, but ultimately we're trying for the same goal. And, I have my handy dandy big book here. And if you don't know which page the steps are on, it's page 59. One of the first pages I've memorized out of the book. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. I've been told that is the only step you have to work 100% of the way. And the reason for that is, if I'm not 100% committed to the fact that I am completely powerless over alcohol. That means if I think about drinking 99 times, so let's say 100 times, I think about drinking 100 times, but I'm only 99% sure of that step. I'm only 99% sure that I'm completely powerless over alcohol. That means 1 out of every 100 times, I'm going to drink. Well, for me, 1 drink could be the end of me, because it won't be just that 1 drink. It'll be a bunch of drinks. So for me, being 100% certain of step 1 is critical. I can't move on in the steps until I have step 1 100%. I have to know through and through that if I have that drink, I'm a goner. And I probably will be, to be honest with you. So, the desire to stop drinking is the only thing you really need to do to start your recovery trip. But step 1 is critical to get that 100%. And it took me some time. I didn't have step 1 100% from the get-go. As a matter of fact, I was probably only maybe 20% sure when I first got started, and relapsed, and relapsed, and relapsed. And each time I relapsed, I started to become a little more sure of step 1. So I became a little bit more confident that I was completely powerless over alcohol, that it was completely whooping my butt, and every time I went up against alcohol, it won. Now at 7 months clean and working a pretty decent program this time, I can say I'm 100% certain of step 1. I can't win against alcohol. Every time I go up against alcohol, I will lose. That is 100%. So if I know 100% of the time I go up against alcohol, I'm going to lose, I'm pretty much powerless over it. And step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I only have to believe that something out there greater than me has the ability to return me to some state of sanity. Well, for anybody that saw me during my drinking days, I was about as insane as you could possibly be. Even my initial days in sobriety, I probably seemed a bit off my rocker to most. I have tried to do it my way so many times, and every time I've failed, that I had to believe that there's something out there bigger than me that has the ability to right my head, to right my heart, and right my soul. So for me, I do believe in God. Now again, that doesn't have to be part of your story. What I share here today, hopefully you can take some of it, but you can leave the rest. My higher power is God, and I truly do believe He has the ability to return sanity to my life. And so far, that is actually the truth. He is really starting to restore sanity to my life. The chaos that once was is no longer part of my life. Now, there's chaotic moments, but my life is not pure and total chaos. So I fully do believe. But again, the only thing you have to do for step 2 is you have to believe. Now, you're probably looking at the steps. If you haven't started on the step work yet, it is a requirement of working an AA or an NA program. You know, there are other ways to get sober. For me, AA was the way, and is the way that works for me. So I fully believe in the power of the steps. And step 2 for me was, another one that took me a little time. When I think I'm the big cheese, and for a while there I did think I was the big cheese. Like, I can do it all. I can do it all by myself. It took me a while to just grasp the concept. Listen, I don't have to say that something or somebody else has more power than me. I just have to believe that it's a possibility. It's a possibility that something out there has the ability to change my mindset. Thank God step 2 is true. There is something out there that can change my mindset and turn me into a sane, normal human being. Now I say normal. Normal's only a setting on the washing machine. But in comparison to what I used to be, I would like to say I'm a little more normal now. So 3 is where, I had to start taking some action. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So this leaves a little openness too. So as I understood him. So, or it. Okay, let's throw that word in there. So as I understand it, I don't have to have somebody else's preconceived notion of what this higher power is. I can take my own preconceived notion. All right? And I just have to look to that and say, all right, well, I understand this. This is the way I want to look at it. Okay. So now I have to make a decision. This is kind of the jumping off point. When I make a decision, if you all are like me, when I make a decision to do something, it's usually as good as done. Because once I get that idea in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. I have made that decision and I'm going to hop. Like, I'm going to do it. Like, my mind's already made up. I'm good at that. I've been doing that my entire life. Oh, I'm going to make this decision and I'm going to go with it. Well, I did that for drinking so many times. Oh, I'm going to have a drink. And yeah, look where that ended up. So now I can actually use that for something good. My determination. Making a decision and actually doing something. Now, with everything else in my life, that seemed to be pretty easy. Okay, I'm going to make a decision to, go to the gym. Okay, I've made that decision and I'm going to go. All I have to do is hop in the car, show up at the gym. Once I'm there, I'm going to work out. With alcoholism, though, it wasn't quite that easy. I can make this decision that I want to be sober. But it's not as easy as just making that decision. I'm making a decision to turn my will and my life over to somebody or something that can make that permanent, that can actually make me jump to do that. Because when I came in, I didn't know how to do it. I needed an instruction manual as to how to stay sober. So I made a decision to turn it over outside of myself to something, someone, other people in the program that knew better than me. How do I do this? But I only have to make that decision. I have to make that decision that it's what I want. It's what I wanted. So I made that decision that I needed help. Couldn't do it on my own. And once I made that decision, it actually got a lot easier because at that point I was committed to it. I was committed to making that change, and I was committed to seeking out what I needed to make that change. And that was really a jumping off point for me. So 100% certain is step 1. I couldn't have a drink. I can't have a drink. And I know that thoroughly, inside and out. Mind, heart, soul, I know it. I can't have a drink. Bam. Step 1, 100%. 2, came to believe and something greater than myself. Well, I've been beaten down enough times to know I'm not the big cheese. So when I was beaten down enough, step 2 became a lot easier. And then I just had to make a decision to say, whatever's bigger than me, I need to turn it over. I got to turn it over because if I take it back myself, I'm just going to screw everything up like I've always done in the past. I can't take it all back on. Because as soon as I do that, everything's going to get screwed up. And, so we're making this transition, and step 4, step 4, nobody wants to take a moral inventory. Are you kidding me? That's like admitting everything I've done wrong in my entire life. Yeah, some of those things kind of hard to admit. But step 4, once I really got my head around it, making this moral inventory, it's really not as hard as a lot of people will make it out to be. So I've seen so many people in the program go back to drinking because they couldn't get through step 4. Step 4 is so critical, and that's kind of why I'm stopping at step 4 here. I want to emphasize step 4 and the importance of step 4. It's made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. It really is simplified down to this. What pisses me off? Why am I pissed off? This is the hard part. What is my role in why I'm pissed off at it? Okay? What did I do? What action on my end caused me to be pissed off at this thing, this person? Now, this hung me up. There is always a role that I played in everything I was pissed off at. It may not be glaring. For a couple of things, it really wasn't glaring, but when I dug, I found out, if I wouldn't have done this, said this, been there, this wouldn't have happened, or maybe I wouldn't be that mad. Now I can internalize that and say, all right, now that I know my role, if I wouldn't have done that, then this never would have happened. I wouldn't be mad. Well, a lot easier to forgive myself sometimes than it is to go out and try to correct this somehow. And, what part of your life does that affect? Is it hurting your ego? Is it hurting you financially? Is it hurting your relationships? So, what part of your life is that hurting? Because anger comes from fear. Fear of what? Why are you angry? It's typically based on fear. What are you fearful of? When you get down to the root of, I'm scared of this because, or I'm mad at this because, there's fear behind it. What am I fearful of? Am I fearful of not having enough money? Am I fearful that people aren't going to like me? Am I fearful that I don't have a place to live? What is it that really drives me? What is my fear that's causing the anger, the resentment, me to be just mad for no reason? If I can figure out the reason, I can start to work on the reason why I'm fearful, which helps that to go away. At least that was my approach to step 4. All right, I have to figure out my role, and I have to figure out what I'm fearful of to help me resolve those things or those people that I resent or I'm mad at. The other part of that is I now have to look at who is mad at me. All right, well, if you all drank and used like I did, sometimes it's hard for me to remember who I pissed off. Because a lot of my drinking sessions were blackout sessions. So I was still active, I was up walking around, but I don't remember anything that I was doing. So a lot of this doesn't come out right away. At least it didn't for me. I have other people in my life that bring things out and tell me, hey, do you remember when you did this when you were using? No. So I couldn't be thorough on my first step 4 because I didn't remember everything. But I think the key here is as much as you can remember, get it all out there and think, who the heck could be mad at me for the dumb crap I did while I was using? So now I have this list of all these people that are mad at me. Same thing as the first list. Why? Why are they mad at me? What did I do? Okay. Now, again, what part of me does that hurt? Does that hurt me financially? Does that hurt my ego? Does that hurt my friendships? What does that hurt? The fact that this person is mad at me and what I did, what part of my life does that affect? And then the key again in this list for me was, what was my role? What was my role and why this person is so mad at me, or why I think they are? I don't necessarily know that this person's mad. I just think they might be. So tearing it apart and saying, all right, well, this is why they might be mad at me, really helps me to come to terms with how do I correct it later. You know, steps 8 and 9, where we go to try to make amends to people. Notice that's a little farther down the list. You know, we really got to get through 4, 5, 6, 7. They're in order for a reason. You know, so step 4 is helping me to form my thoughts. All right, okay, these are all the people that are probably mad at me. Here's what I did. This is how it hurts me. And this was my role. What did I do? And when I can put the blame back on myself, I can start to look at it and say, you know, I truly was at fault. Okay? And it took me some time to really be able to forgive myself. But I think that's really the root. What we're trying to get down to is, if we can ultimately forgive ourselves, that's the route to healing. Because sometimes forgiving ourselves is the hardest thing about recovery. Forgiving ourselves for all the hell we drug people through. And I don't know, my story, I drug people through a lot of hell. So there was a lot of amends that had to be made. You know, in step 4, so you get through those 2 lists. Okay, so we broke it down to 2 lists. Pretty simple. Now, simple from the aspect of, okay, they're lists. But yes, it takes a lot of work to fill those lists in. And the other parts to step 4 is, well, the fear inventory. Well, we've already started that in the lists. What were we fearful of? What was it affecting in our lives? Which helps you to do the fear inventory. All right, let's look back at the lists. How did these things affect me? Now I can start to see what things I'm the most fearful of in life. I'm afraid of being alone. I'm afraid of not having any money. I'm afraid that the friendships that I've built over the years will be gone. See how many times those things pop up in your list. They will show up on your fear inventory. And now you can dig down into why you're afraid of those things. So be thorough in your fear inventory. Dig down. Think about it. What is it that you're truly fearful of in life? Get it down on paper and be honest. Honesty is the root of recovery. If you can be honest with yourself, that's the biggest key to recovery and working a good recovery program. Be honest with yourself and be honest with others. If you can be honest, you can do this program. And, the last part of step 4, a little touchy, is the sex inventory. Might have to work with your sponsor on that one. But, think about every way that you've used sex or sexual relations in your past improperly. Think about that one, write it all down, and just get it out on paper. And then go over that with your sponsor. I won't go into too much detail on that one. So, thank you all for watching. Again, if you like this video, please subscribe. Recovery Dude. I'll try to put up more material soon. Thank you all. Have a good day.